after the tragedy at Sandy Hook. So GE gave us $15 million to build and construct, and then $5 million, $1 million a year in operating funds. I continue to watch their stocks yearly to make sure we're getting our money. So we're very gracious for that donation from them. Minimum wage has certainly thrown us a curveball in operatings, and right now we're looking at a $1.2 million operating budget. So about $200,000 over the donation we get each year, but we've been able to balance that with revenues. Okay, so here's our facility. Okay, we are adjacent to our senior center. As you can see, there's a separate entrance for the senior center and the community center, and there's a corridor. Going through the process, we're very similar in some ways. This referendum took a long time to pass. There seemed to be a disconnect with the community, along with some emotional attachments with the funding. So we were able to find a happy medium. I started in 2016. The donation was given in 2013. And we were able to build from there. The largest take back from that was lack of community involvement. And we made huge strides in meeting with different groups. People did not want a full sports facility. We have a couple arts groups in town that wanted to be incorporated, a couple senior groups. They did not want their old senior center to be rebuilt. They wanted to know what type of enhancements. So there was a lot of different viewpoints on why the referendum was turned down the first time. Many different renderings were put together. We are adjacent to a gym and a workout facility, so we do lack a few amenities. I'm not sure where you guys are in your planning stages of either having a gym or a turf or basketball courts, but we do have those facilities right next to us. So we do lack a few amenities, but we've been able to make that up with program space. And I'll talk a little bit about what that program space does and what I consider that program space to be moving forward. You can see our art studio on the left. Our building is featured on the Fairfield Hills campus. This campus was, I call it a gift to us from the state of Connecticut, more like a headache, about 15 years ago. So we do have some infrastructure issues here we're working with, and the town just approved housing on the campus. This was a contentious referendum over the last 10 years. It's been on the ballot a couple of times. So we're looking forward to that, and that's obviously going to help us drive membership. But back to rental spaces, you'll see our commercial kitchen, which is adjacent to our multi-purpose room. Here are our pools. So we have a zero depth entry pool that has a handicap ramp into our therapy pool, and then our lap pool. So there was a contingency in town that thought that a 50-meter pool would be the way to go. Unfortunately, the dollar only stretched so far. We have a 6-lane pool. We could have gone 8, which during the pandemic would have worked well with our restrictions. But unfortunately, now we have opened up our high school pool 5 days a week because of the need for recreational swimming. So right now we are staffing both facilities. One of the pros and one of the things I learned when designing this project, and I got from one of our neighboring facilities, is their pools only run on one filtration system. So if there is an accident in the pool or an issue, the whole aquatic center is shut down. So one word of advice when looking at designing pools is to have 2 filtration systems if you plan to have 2 pools. That has been a savior for us. Okay, here's our multi-purpose room on the top left corner. I tried to put some images in showing it in use instead of staring at blank rooms, but those rooms really do come alive. I like to call that our cash cow. That room doesn't require any staffing. And last year, in the first 6 months, we made close to $40,000 on rentals out of that space. We have, in our design, we've included a lot of divided walls, so the space can be used multifunctionally. Okay. We in phase 2 of our construction project, we do have some outdoor amenities that we weren't able to include in phase 1, and those are going to be huge. We're looking at putting an outdoor patio adjacent to our multi-purpose room for indoor-outdoor events. We're looking at putting a spray bay and some outdoor seating as well for our camp programs. We have a conference room, which is increased capacity for town meetings and other small events by local groups. Again, when meeting with a lot of local groups, they were looking for meeting space. A lot of them meet at people's houses, at different locations in town, but they wanted a place to call home. So that was part of the incorporation of cultural arts, our legions, our Lions Club, our Rotary. That helped bringing a lot of them on board. Again, our multi-purpose room is equipped with audio-visual equipment for presentations. Our school district uses it frequently. In the middle second tier, that is one of our activity rooms used for birthday parties, child's care, after school programs. We're happy that it took a while for our after school programs to be up and running. We were able to work out with the school district to get busing to the community center, so that's been very beneficial. And in the lower right is our activity room. So not having many amenities like a gym, a turf, or a fitness center, we do offer health and wellness classes. So we rounded off our membership packages to incorporate a lot of those programs. Okay, there's our entrance, there's the multi-purpose room empty, art studio, and then we do have 3 locker rooms. A huge benefit having a family locker room. I picked up some experience. I worked at the YMCA for 10 years. Prior to this position, I was the director of youth and family services in Newtown. But there's a large need for family locker rooms. It actually spreads out, and it's been super helpful during COVID as well. But our design incorporated changing stalls in the showers, so there's no public nudity, and families could feel comfortable coming into the locker room. So I would recommend that again. Okay. So I gave you a little bit of our timeline, community involvement, focus groups, meeting with individual groups, revenue generation. So this was a big button item when going through the process. Is this facility going to be at the taxpayer's expense, or is our goal to be self-sustainable? The Shelton Community Center has a different approach than we do. They eat the cost and have a lower membership rate. We're self-sustaining, as well as Ridgefield. I'm going to send a packet out, and hopefully this will help you guys, save you guys some work on price comparisons, putting a 50-meter pool versus a 20-yard pool, ice rink, basketball court. So we had some studies done from SFA, which is a sports advisory group, and I think those will be helpful. Pandemic challenges. So we just started vaccinating here last week, and we've actually updated our town mass vaccination policy. Our main site was always the high school, but once we started vaccinating 75 and older, we realized it just wasn't feasible for seniors to walk all the way into the high school and get from the parking lot into the gym. So it has been a huge help having our multi-purpose room on one level close to the parking lot for seniors to be able to get vaccinated. We've talked a little bit about our high traffic because of the pandemic. And then we've also designed our parking lot to be easily accessible on all 4 sides. So we've been able to do a lot of drive-through programs. We've done lunch and learns from the parking lot using a car radio system, drop-offs and things. So we've been able to use the space to the best of our ability. I've mentioned non-residents, 29%. For us, it's about 20% in Ridgefield and 18% in Shelton. Non-resident fees help drive revenue. They help programs succeed. You know, some of my classes might not be filled to capacity without non-residents, but I do push, and I think especially in your area, I think the Ansonia Y closed, right, Kurt? Did that close? Yeah. So, I see the same.
Jim's on the mute, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I see the same thing in your area with having high non-resident usage, which will probably help with sustainability. From our corridor all the way to Waterbury, there's no indoor pools. So we get a lot of our residents from Southbury, which has the largest per capita of seniors in the state. So unfortunately, they drive a lot of our water aerobics programs. So we see Southbury, Middlebury, Oxford, and Woodbury non-residents. Those are our four top categories. So our amenities: 25-yard lap pool, 3 locker rooms, 0 entry depth spray bay, therapy pool, health and wellness classes, water aerobics, swim lessons, art programs, rental space, birthday parties, youth and adult programming. Having the senior center attached to the community center has been very beneficial. We're able to share resources, multi-generational programming. Seniors can attend water aerobics at the community center, they can attend a yoga class, and then they can have lunch at the senior center. So there's a lot of cohesiveness and collaboration in those ways. Again, we allow for the separate entrance. That was a big sticking point with seniors, but we have a corridor that runs in between both buildings. Again, financially, we have a split on supplies, and all the mechanicals saved a ton of money. In the package I'm going to send you to is going to be a breakdown of what it would cost for a standalone community center and a standalone senior center with some dimensions. So that might be helpful for you to look at it as well. Huge benefits were our dividing walls in the multifunctional space, the rental space having the commercial kitchen attached, our conference rooms. And again, I've had conversations with Mary. Our greater need now to bridge that gap, especially in the summer, having a membership-based facility, is the need for outdoor amenities around the community center. So that's one of the challenges we're tasked with. Here's a layout of our building, straight ahead, adjacent to the pool. You have our entrance. Our senior center is 9,450 square feet, and the community center's a little over 37,000. Okay. I can touch a little bit on our neighbors and what they've seen through the pandemic, as well as suggestions that I have. They originally started with 2 turf fields. They've cut one of the turf fields into half basketball, half turf, because the need for basketball has grown. A lot of their revenue comes from rental revenue, so not standalone programming. They have the same hiccups. I don't know where you stand currently in your planning process, but their gym is certainly struggling, and we don't know if people will ever go back to the gym or stay invested in Peloton or have switched to swimming as their main activity right now. So I think over the next 6 months is going to be telling on where we are moving forward. Some of the things that we were unable to put into the building is a generator. We just lost power last week, and we're very fortunate that our vaccines weren't stored over here. We were able to move them over to our emergency operations center. So that's something that I would strongly recommend to you guys. It's a lot on If you do move ahead with the plan with a pool, it's a lot on the mechanicals on a forced shutdown. We've done a lot of building projects in town over the last 3 years. We've built the new Sandy Hook School. We built the new community center and senior center. And then 2 months ago, we opened our brand new police department on 25. And the first thing that always goes out of building projects is storage. And we are currently out of storage. We're renting storage elsewhere. So until we have a permanent plan. So I would recommend more storage, the better. Okay. And then I also have some locker room recommendations. You know, we didn't plan our locker rooms for high traffic. And at the peak of our membership, we were at about 6,500 people, and our locker rooms weren't built for that capacity. So we're looking at some long-term planning on those spaces to bump them out into the hallway. As you can see on our map, the hallways were built 19 feet to be able to have vendors and fairs and utilize those corridors as programmable space as well, to fill the need of that art and cultural community. And we've been able to utilize it well. But in the future, I do see us expanding our locker rooms into those corridors. Let's see. And I'm sorry, I didn't stop for questions. Does anybody have any questions along the way?
We'll do them all at once at the end.
Sure.
Yeah, that way you can finish up.
Sure, yeah. So let's see here. Since we've opened our new senior center, membership has grown 32%. So I think it's a combination of new leadership. I think it's a combination of new programming and a larger space. Yeah, we saw over 400 new members last year in our new senior center. So that was great. And then, yeah. Did you guys do a community survey yet?
No, that's actually on the agenda for tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so we posted a community survey after the first referendum turned down. We started from scratch. 3,200 residents filled out the survey. We incorporated the library, so anybody who came into the library filled out a survey. Anybody who went into the senior center. So we used a lot of our community resources to be able to get community input and bring awareness to the project. So that was really helpful in getting that information done. So we did that all online. That was the best way to do it. And then we met with stakeholders in each town group who were able to pass the survey along and get some feedback as well. So it just offered some transparency and open communication about the project. I will tell you, this project had its hiccups because we were given the gift of funding before we knew what we were looking for. And the dollar only stretched so far, and there were some big dreams, and we had to scale things back. So you were in a little bit of a different place, and over time, just things, the cost rose of different objectives of the building, and we had to take things out. So yeah, I think scope of work is huge in what you're looking for.
Matt, this is Mike Marcinek. What was the cost of the building?
$20 million.
And that was just for the community center, not the senior center?
That was both.
That was both?
Yeah.
Okay. How much land does it sit on?
It sits on 1.5 acres.
Okay.
Matt, this is Bill Sawicki. It cost 20 million. Obviously 10 came from GE, 10, I'm assuming the town had a bond.
Correct.
They're giving you, GE has been giving you, you said $1 million a year. When does that grant expire? And overall, I mean, when it runs out, what is not what is the operational cost of this center?
Sure. So we're currently running at a $1.2 million budget. Last year, up until we closed, we were at about $700,000 in revenue. 75 to 80% of our facility runs off membership revenue. So, I would advise against, with a membership type facility instead of something that's program driven if you are looking towards sustainability. Our GE grant runs out in 2 years. We're in year 3 of the $1 million. Our goal is to continue to increase membership, though, that it doesn't fall on the taxpayers, but put together a list of CIP items with a 10-year plan to see if our membership revenue can cover that. We were, like I said, in what we had projected in year 3 of revenue in year 1. Now, some of that could have been because it was new and flashy. We don't know. We haven't been able to develop a lot of those patterns yet, but pools generate revenue. Unfortunately, we do have a competitive pool at the high school. So we don't have a swim team here at our facility. People were afraid, and that was some of the voices that came out against the project, was that the pool was going to be strictly for a swim team and that residents would never have the opportunity to use it. In off hours, I do allow local teams to rent the pool. It has been a great source of revenue, but I think that's a decision you guys will have to make if you move forward with the pool.
So we're looking at, forgetting if you didn't have any GE money, we're looking at about $1.2 million to run it, about 700,000 in revenue from what you said. So that's let's call it a $500,000 hole, not right now, obviously, but projected when this GE money runs out in a couple of years. That being said, has the town committed to some sort of funding for this? Because I wouldn't think that they would just turn around, given the cost and the expanse and what this thing is, just to let it go.
Yeah, if we were continuing on the pattern, we would have been self-sufficient in year 1. We have, and I can share you with our financials. We haven't had to dip into a large amount of that GE funding in those 3 years. So we do have a cushion.
Okay.
Give us some funding over the next couple of years. And our goal is to stretch that funding for 10, 15 years, if possible, so it doesn't fall on the taxpayers. Like I said, minimum wage has certainly thrown us for a huge curveball in that increase of up to $15 an hour in the next 2 years. But I'm hoping that the town would be responsible for large capital improvement items and a small amount to help with operations.
How many people function as, let's say, full-time staff to keep this place going? How many people, roughly?
So I only have 4 full-time staff.
Okay.
I have. We also do have a separate Parks and Rec department, and they are housed out of this building as well, and they have 3 full-time staff. So I can certainly send you our org chart. I have myself. I have a program coordinator that is a shared service with the senior center. So the town picks up 30% of her salary, and I account for the other 70. I was really big on shared services and shared staffing to keep our costs low. Our facility manager is shared staff with the senior center as well. So half of his salary comes out of Public Works, and the other half comes out of the community center. And then we have our aquatics director, which is shared staff with our Parks and Recreation department. We also have the town beach, outdoor pool, and outdoor spray pad. So she oversees all of those facilities as well. So $12,000 out of her salary comes from Park and Rec. They used to hire a waterfront supervisor, and now we have a year-round town aquatics director.
So of all the personnel that you have operating in there, I'm not hearing that there's any, let's say, full-time maintenance or facilities person. Who handles that? Does your town public works do it, or is
So
it
we have
primarily outsourced?
So we have a facilities manager, but we've outsourced all of our housekeeping needs
Okay,
and cleaning.
so you've got a cleaning service or whatever title you've ascribed to it that keeps the place clean and hoses it down or whatever and dusts
Correct.
and all
So,
that.
so we have an overnight service and we have one person during the day. And it costs us about $50,000 a year in
Okay.
house cleaning.
All right. Yeah, no, thank you. I just want to get an idea of numbers that we're
Yeah,
talking about,
it's,
because we don't have the luxury of having to be able to have a large place like a GE kick in money. This is going to be $1 from our point of view to start out at zero. So
Right.
it's helpful. It's helpful to get an idea of
Yeah,
what you have
and I'll be
and what you
transparent.
do.
I'll show you our org chart. I'll show you my budgets and our salary breakdowns and what we're looking at for the next 5 years.
No, that would be most helpful. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Matt, it's Mike Marson again. You have a long, expansive roof. Do you guys have solar on that roof at all?
We just completed our solar project. So we're estimating to save hopefully, to start, a couple $100 a month as we start getting up and rolling. But we installed our solar over our pool. So we're hopefully see the savings. But we were looking at about $110,000 a year in utility costs.
How much do you think you're going to offset by all that?
I've talked to my public works director. We're hoping to save, $10,000 to $20,000 a year.
Okay.
So Matt, a couple questions I have. You talked about the amenities. What are the things that you wish you did get and the things you wish you hadn't gotten?
Yeah. I love our partnership with NYA, but our membership could be more expansive if we had a basketball court, if we had a turf field, and if we had a gym. So we really strive for a lot of different types of family programming around our pool and other programming. So it would have been easier if we had a gym. It makes the sell a little bit harder just being an aquatic facility with some other amenities. We looked at putting in a climbing wall. We didn't have the funding to do that, nor did I think that that was an amenity that somebody would come to the community center just to use. But I would have loved to have a gym in this facility to balance the pool, and it would have created more revenue. Personal training, specialized sport training. We just, we did not want to compete with a private business in town and put our neighbors out of business. So we had to kind of pull our mission around the amenities we did have. But like I said, I'm hoping we can, in phase 2, expand our outdoor amenities and build off that because, our summer revenue gap is short and we're limited to what we can do.
In retrospect, would you rather have had a gym as opposed to that large community meeting room?
No, like I said, that room is set it and forget it. And I mentioned we brought in close to $40,000 in rental revenue, and I've spent no money to staff that space. I don't have contracts on equipment. I don't have to staff it. I don't have the liability. I think having community rooms like that really brings the community together. It showcases your facility, and it's just a nice thing to have. We've I don't know what kind of space you have in your town to have large events other than the high school, but it's been nice to have a separate facility to be able to host, let's say, swearing in ceremonies and different types of events. We did, full disclosure here, unfortunately, we had two presidential candidates come to the community center, and it created a stir. When you have open rooms for rent, you certainly can't put restrictions on rooms for rental because it is a public building. So full disclosure that you have to rent to anybody that wants space. And we've come into some challenges just because of the community we are and what has happened here. And unfortunately, it's created some barriers. So, but yeah, having our commercial kitchen, we also offer that out for rent. We have weekly rentals of small business owners in town that run, side culinary businesses, bakeries, and they rent that kitchen per hour. So we have about 5 or 6 rentals a week of that space as well.
Okay. The senior center and the community center, if you had to do it all over again, would you keep them as separated as they are? Or do you think it makes sense to have one facility that caters to everyone, where there could be a senior activity and then the very next room an activity for toddlers, let's say?
I would keep them separate. The seniors do like their own space. And a large part of why the project was turned down was that the seniors were afraid that families and children were going to occupy their space and take their space away from them. So having that space has shown them that they have their own separate space. They have their own programs running, but they can also integrate into the community center for other programming. We do incorporate some multi-generational programming with the community center, but there were a lot of large voices that wanted the two separate and felt the need that the senior programming would fall by the wayside.
Okay. And then my last question, at least on regionalization. Do you think it makes more sense to look at a regional model, or to kind of do what you do and open it up for a higher cost for non-Newtown residents?
Yeah, I think that depends on your budget for the project. I think non-resident revenue is fine, but overall, I don't know how you'd probably split up the project with multiple municipalities, right? That's what you're thinking.
It's something we've considered with maybe Beacon Falls, depending on, or Ansonia, depending on where we built it.
Right. I think that's a great idea. I think logistically, programming wise, I think you're going to have some things to work out. I think non-resident revenue is fine. We get no complaints. People are happy to pay, in some cases double, just to have somewhere to come. But I think it's something definitely worth looking at.
Thank you. All right, anybody else have questions?
I do. Matt, this is Tim Connors.
Sure,
I just have a few questions. First off, is like he just led into it. What is the cost for in-town membership versus outsourced membership out of town?
Sure.
Or what are you charging per membership?
So it's $41 for a family, and it's per month, and it's 51 for non-resident right now.
Okay.
So we didn't know what the buy-in was going to be from our residents at the time. So we kept our particularly close so that we didn't alienate or turn people away. So as our usage became higher, especially during the pandemic, we want to make that gap a little bit larger.
Okay. And that includes all programming that you have, or each program is paid separately after the fact of your membership?
So we have some inclusive programming, our water aerobics, our health and wellness programming, swim lessons are extra, after school programs are extra, childcare is all extra fees. So we do have a list of programs that are included with your membership, and being so limited in our amenities, we kind of had to create a package that would be feasible for people to come and utilize the facility.
Okay. And if for those like babysitting or after school programs, do they have to be a member? to utilize those services?
They do not. Nope.
Okay.
So residents can pay a resident non-membership fee, and non-residents can pay a non-resident membership or a non-membership fee for programs.
Gotcha. I'll jump around a little bit. In regards to you said it was an acre and a half you're sitting on right now, or that's about what you're on. Is that included parking also, or is that separate?
It doesn't. That's separate.
That's just the building itself, no
Correct.
parking. Okay.
No parking.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
we I think altogether we have 98 parking spaces. Because of where we're situated on the campus, people come and walk here all the time. So we run into the problem with people who are coming to use our walking trails, parking in our parking lot. So down the road, we are looking at avenues for more parking.
Okay. What else? In your cost of yearly maintenance of 50,000, does that include the senior center also, or is that a separate entity that takes care of itself?
Yeah, that's separate. So that falls under Public Works. I currently manage, all of the building maintenance for the building, but the funding comes from a different source.
Okay, so that's separate from the 50,000 outsourced that you have right now. Is it done internally?
Done. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it's done internally. The large part of our maintenance budget is our pools.
Okay.
So, we've talked before, we have UV, VFDs, so the blue light bacteria system.
Yep.
We spend $8,000 just changing those bulbs a year on that system.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Now, is that included in your $50,000 number, or is that additional?
that's additional. So I have a building maintenance line item, and then I have a pool line item. Pool
Okay.
system. And
All right. And then in your operating number that you gave us,
which runs at about $25,000 a year.
okay, just for that pool area.
Yep.
Okay. In your operation number that you gave us before, did that include the senior center also, or is that separate entity?
Separate entity.
Okay.
So I would say they probably run at about 275.
Okay. And that's staffing also on their end. It's not included in your number.
Correct. So they have their own senior center assistant that includes all of their programming, and maintenance as well.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'll share those budgets with you as well.
Okay. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Matt, quick question, just to follow up on Tim. Did you get any pushback from residents that said our taxes are paying for this thing already? Why do we have to pay $41 a month now?
Yeah. In the beginning, when I rolled out membership rates, we did get pushback. But we did a presentation video that we rolled out to the community, showing the gift to the community and the benefits of the community center to a family or to an individual who want to utilize the facility. So yes, we got some pushback, but I think it was because of the nature of the gift. This was supposed to be a gift to us. The gift was the building, not the membership. So we're in a different situation there. But our rates are the lowest from any pool in the area. Average YMCA family rates are $100 a month. So I think people knowing the prices of other facilities were willing to sign up because they saw the bargain.
Okay.
Yeah,
Matt, this is
yeah,
Matt.
We're super conservative in our membership rates, as I mentioned before, and we do have a 5-year plan on those, especially for non-residents. If we do continue to increase our amenities as well, if we get the outdoor spray bay up and going, our playground and things, so we do have a plan for that.
Matt, this is Bill Sawicki again. Regarding paying for the memberships, whether it be out of town or it's in town for the $41 or $51 a month, is that I would assume, is something like that done like an automatic debit to somebody's checking account, or is the expectation that they pay once a year and it works out to $41 or $51 a month? Or does every month people sign up and it either hits their credit card or there's an automatic debit to their bank account? So they really sign up and don't ever see the money physically coming out unless they'll look at a statement or look at their Visa card or something.
So we have both options. So we can take the money in one full lump sum. You get a discount if you sign up for the year in advance. And then we have your normal bank draft where we'll
Okay.
bill your credit card or checking each month.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
What other questions do people have?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Go ahead, Fred.
programming, does the school district utilize the community center for?
Sure. So besides opening up a school here, from last spring till this fall, after school programming, staff development days, PTA fundraisers, our continuing education, rent space here for evening programming. And we actually, a really neat part that I'm remiss from mentioning this before is I was able to start a cafe in our lobby, a special needs cafe, to serve the special needs population in town and kids who are 18 to 21 transitioning out of high school but are still considered in high school. So we have a transitions program, and we were able to staff them in our facility. They help with cleaning needs, and they staff the cafe. So we're able to teach them vocational skills, and I think that's just one more benefit to the community center and reaching another demographic. And that's our goal, is to continue to reach all these different pockets in town. Through the process, everybody wants it to be their community center. They want it to have something that they can use. So we try to reach out to these different pockets and incorporate them in our planning and what we do here.
And thank you. And if I may, if another department of the town, such as the school district, utilizes the center, is there a charge to that budget, that other department budget by your center?
Yeah. As we know, school districts have all the money. The town doesn't have the money. But yes, there is a charge to the school district. It's very minimal, just to cover, housekeeping or, cover the space they use. But it's a very minimal charge. We view it as collaboration with them.
Very good. Thank you.
No problem.
Matt, just quick question. It's Zach over here. So you guys have been operating in person, is that correct?
Yes, we've been operating in person since June 22nd. We do have a lot of programs held virtually.
Okay.
We did have to purchase a whole new software for reservation systems, as I'm sure you did over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But we do spend a lot of time now utilizing those services, chasing people down. People have found a way around the system. So it's added a whole nother thing onto our plate to manage. But it's been going very well so far. And people feel comfortable when they come in, and that's the goal. So
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, swimming, when the CDC came out and said that swimming is low risk and chlorine kills the virus, our membership started to track back up.
Awesome.
So we'll see what happens if it sustains at this level, especially with summer coming. But yeah, it's been beneficial for us.
Cool. And then you mentioned also, I think you said either was it a splash pad or a spray bay? What is that? Or what is?
So outdoor water features.
Okay.
So we have an indoor, as you can see, Frogio in the middle there. We have some splash blasters. We have the buckets are shown a little bit. And then we have, I think altogether we have 6 features, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, in our zero depth entry. And for those of you that don't know what zero depth entry, it's like beach entry. It's a gradual entry into the therapy pool. That has 6 features in it. We're looking at putting an outdoor pad for summer purposes outside.
Yeah, great.
So, and then we also did a small reno to the senior center this summer. We put outdoor seating out there so people could book their time on the patio outside through the senior center.
Great, thanks.
No problem.
I don't know what's going on.
I do have a few questions if you, Matt.
No problem. Hi.
Hi, Matt. I don't know if my face, let's see what happened here. Sorry.
There you go.
Okay, so on the pool, what type of filtration system did you put in?
Sure. So we use a ProLite system. I'll get you the exact name. It was specification from Weston and Sampson. I know the type of system. I don't know the name, but I'll get you those. So I think I actually sent some of the information over to Tim. Tim, do you still have that?
I think you had to leave.
No, I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
What was
I think I sent you over some of the pool filtration information.
that? Yes.
But yeah, so we have two separate pool filters. We use a separate VFD for both pools as well. And that was the largest. I call that the money room. So all of our pool mechanicals were the largest costs in the whole building.
And another question. Thank you, Matt. You've been very informative. On the seniors, you said that you had a growth of 400 new members. How many total senior center members do you have?
We are looking at about 1,200. We're a community of close to 30,000, but we have about 1,200 senior center members.
Do you know what the average age of those seniors are?
I don't.
Or the range?
I could get you that information.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
And lastly, that commercial kitchen, do you use it for congregate meals or regular meals?
We do. We often do spaghetti dinners, and then since our senior center does not have a commercial kitchen, they can't cook on that side of the building. So any type of event that might require cooking for seniors, we have in the community center. So we saved cost by not putting in two commercial kitchens and what the health district calls more of a warming kitchen.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Matt, how many active seniors out of the 1,200?
I believe we have probably around 600 to 700.
Okay.
That come frequently. But I can pull some numbers for you on that as well.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Anybody else have questions for Matt? No, everybody's good? Okay. Yeah, so Matt, everything that you have, if you want to get it over to Zach and Mary,
Sure.
and then we'll make sure that it's distributed out to everybody in the group.
Yeah, no problem. If everybody wants to come down for a tour, feel free. You have my email. I can give you a personal tour. And if there's anything you need down the line, feel free to check out our social media pages. We're very active on social media. Like I said, I don't know where you are currently in your planning process, but willing to help, with whatever you need down the road. I think having a community center in our community has been so beneficial, and residents have seen the benefit over the past year. So I wish you guys the best of luck.
Excellent. Thanks. Thanks for the time tonight, and for the time was about 15 or 16 months ago when we first came out to see you. So,
Thanks,
but thanks again, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Problem.
Thank
Good
you,
luck,
Matt.
guys. Thanks.
All right. So item number 5 is discussion, take possible action regarding location of new updated community center, including size and development. Mike took the time to put together some stuff. So let me put it together based on the conversation that we had. Oh, hold on. Hold on. The other day. So let's see here. There we go. All right. So, Mike, why don't you kind of take it where you want, and then I'll just move the pictures around, and then we can kind of just have an open dialogue.
The entire site is about 1.22 acres. The site to the right, where all the open land is, it's about 70,000 square feet, which is about an acre and a half. As everyone knows, the existing building is basically 2-story with a basement for the old middle school, and then the gym and the what we call the annex between the two buildings. So go on to the next slide. I just put this shot there just so you can see that essentially it's a historic building. I don't think it's on historic records, but it's got some uniqueness to it, you know, and we ought to think about that, whether or not we want to lose some of our culture in town, and if we looked at tearing this down versus doing internal renovations. I figured I'd just put it there in front of us. Go to the next slide. All right, so this essentially 13,000 square feet would be the approximate area that you could put a pool and the gym in that square, and make it an attachment to the building. Let's call it instead of a full replacement, we did a expansion and added a pool, added a gym, and then renovated like new the rest of that building. So I'm just trying to put in perspective what it would look like if you did that. All right, take it to the next slide. That box is about 20,000 square feet. If you remember last month, I put together a 2 or 3-story building with a footplate of 20,000 square feet. So essentially you could build that, and then if you decide you could tear it down, the rest of that building. Of course, that building at 20,000 square feet, the way it's laid out, it's not as expansive as Newtown. Newtown, as you saw, it encompassed a lot of property. You know, it's 40,000 square feet. It's almost an acre of building.
Mike,
So
that's 20,000 square feet on one level, correct?
that's 20,000 on one level, correct. So if you just think, and if you go to, let's see, not the next one. If you go 2 more, go 2 more, one past this. That site is 70,000 square feet. So that's what Newtown would look like, probably with the parking and everything. That would take up, you laid it all out in one floor. A building of about 40,000 square feet and about 20,000 square feet of parking. And then you'd have the existing building that you could tear down and use that for other things, additional parking, additional space. But that just gives you the size of that open area with the skate park of about 70,000 square feet.
With the skate park, okay?
You could you could fit it somewhere, yeah, on the site.
Okay.
Depending on how you lay out the building, whether or not you put a new building, you can go. The issue with and I don't know if you were able to see those elevations, their pool, the height of the pool, you can see pops up, and because as you're talking probably a floor to ceiling height of 20 plus feet in that area, maybe 20, 25. So you want that height in the pool area. So, you know, if you do a multi-story building, you can fit in between a double-story building. So you put the fitness center or gym, the locker rooms on the first floor, and then you can go above that with other functions. The issue really comes down to how much you want to spend. And I just there's in your package, there's parcel valuations just to give you some ideas of the parcel. But if you go to the last slide, I think that's more of a discussion point. Go next slide. Yeah, so this essentially, we talked about the 40,000 square foot building being in at about $14 million. Just to give you a perspective, when Newtown paid $20 million on 46,000 square feet at $431 a square foot. Most of that cost is really driven by the fact that it's all one story. You're expanding that pretty far. And I'm sure the finishes were very nice. You can see some of those images, a lot of technology. So you got to think about that, how you do that. But they also got a $10 million grant. Now, if you took that building today, and when was that building finished? 4 years ago?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so now you're at 22 to $23 million for that, which is probably putting it at about $475 a square foot.
Yeah,
That's an expensive building. You know, they really did not do any value engineering on that. So, you know, at 40,000 square feet or 46,000 with the seniors in there, you know, 40,000, is it going to be enough? I don't know. You'd have to look at that. We already talked about what happens to the Boys and Girls Club, what happens to some of the other activities. If you did a like new renovation, and some of these costs have to be really, I just threw these together quickly. We're probably looking at $12, $13 million. You can probably get a 57,000 square foot building by adding a new gym. I mean, a gym and a pool, and converting the existing gym to a fitness center and locker rooms. And then doing renovation costs on the rest of the existing building. And it doesn't really kill the whole field. You can probably think about other things like putting the splash pad in, you know, for outdoor. You know, if you position the pool correctly, you can make that more into a summer pool as well, if you really want to look at that. So there's a lot of things you can do. I think you get more building, more square footage for less money by incorporating the existing building. A new building is gonna cost $350 to $400 a square foot, no doubt about it, because you're gonna want a lot of different amenities in the building. Kitchen, you know, it's not going to be cheap, a commercial kitchen. But if you lay it out properly, I think you can get different groups to use it and generate revenue, like they're saying. You know, kitchen cooking classes; those are very popular now. But we would have challenges with the existing community center, like we were talking earlier before the meeting started. You know, hazardous material, you know, what's in that building that we've got to clean up. So we got to look at all that.
So we're talking, Mike, a
I
$2 million.
want to chime in for a second because I'm still interested in the rest of the conversation. You know, we did have a previous building on this property prior. So we, on top of the $20 million, we spent $4.5 million in demoing the Canaan House, which is one of the mental health facilities on the campus. So when that came out of the town CIP, which had a long-term plan, knocking down some of the facilities on this campus. So that $4.5 million wasn't included in our project. On top of that, we had taken out over $1 million in value engineering items.
Okay.
Out of the facility, if that gives you something in retrospect. So we scaled down. We don't have a building management system. So we cut that out of the budget. The outdoor amenities were cut out. So I think it was actually 1.5 that we value engineered out after they came back to us.
Mike, this is Bill. So we're talking roughly a renovation job of, let's say, $12 million, if I'm looking at this right.
Renovation and addition.
Okay, yeah, roughly 12 million bucks, 11,765 versus brand new of 14
For a smaller building.
for a smaller building. If I'm reading this right.
That's correct.
Now, using the existing building, if we go the $11 million route, I'm guessing that there's room, and this may really be a wish list, but I'm guessing there's room to expand that because we would be working within the framework of just what's there. So we would have the field, let's say, next to it or whatever, to if we needed or desired at some point.
Yeah, you could still use the field. I mean, the pool, the addition of the pool and the gym would be probably in the 12,000 square foot, footplate.
Yep.
Addition. That would still leave you probably 50,000 square feet of space. You
Okay.
would, I would still probably move the skate park. Depending how
No,
you
agreed.
orient the building.
Yeah.
You want the building, you know, if let's say we talked about last meeting, putting glass doors that are operable, that you can open up for the outside. Do you put those on the Derby Avenue side or you put them on the river side?
Agreed. Yep.
You know, where do you want the image to be when people drive down Derby Avenue to see? You know, so a lot of that goes into the discussion of how you want to orient that space. And then from there, you figure out how you want to work in your splash pads, your skate park, your outdoor activities are in and around.
So if
I
you're,
just
if we're
threw
looking,
a box just to give you a perspective of what.
no, understood. No, understood. So
Okay.
we're looking at $12 million, let's say spread over 15 years of debt with an operational cost using Newtown as a guide of $1.2 million a year. Not counting obviously how much revenue can be generated off of the memberships and things like that. So we're talking a fairly sizable piece of change, at least up front for the first couple of years, until this thing settles in and we get the membership rolling and the paying the dues and whatever. Okay.
Yeah, but there's also, you know, as Matt was saying, you know, is there ideas of other alternative revenue? If, for instance, the YMCA.
Oh, no,
you
understood. Yeah.
Do you bring the YMCA in and say, okay, here's an opportunity to take all that, take and use that for some outdoor revenue? Outside.
No, understood. There needs to be obviously let's call it a revenue plan or a revenue projection.
Right.
That goes along with building this thing, however way we decide to build it. Okay,
And
thank you.
the other thing that's not in here in this is if we do a like new renovation, phasing, how we do it, you know, how do we clean the building? All that's got to be taken into consideration. You know, what do you do with these services that Zach has to take care of that may not be in the building because the building is being, you know, cleaned. So until we start renovation. So you've got to look at all those alternatives. Is there, you know, areas that you can move them to temporarily?
Did you break out, Mike, by chance, the location behind Stop and Shop, or are we set on this location?
There is one.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, I thought it was going to be included, Kurt.
It should be. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. I was gonna pull something else up, but hold on. Can't figure out what I did.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah.
The 40,000 square foot one, is that for one level like it was in Monroe? I mean, in Newtown?
No, it's more of a two-level, multi-level. You know, so you put actually three levels, but two of them would be over one. You'd go over the pool as well, so it'd be three levels.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Just the footprint is what costs us, so.
Yeah. The longer you go out to a footprint, the more expensive it's going to get.
Correct.
Yeah, I did do a Google Earth shot of.
Yeah, hold on. Well, I'm stuck. I'm pulling up two different things. But just to give you guys an idea of cost. Hold on, bear with me 1 second while I pull this up. Cam. Share screen. All right, so this column right here where it says 2021, that's an $11.1 million bond issue over 30 years. So that will give you a level payments, interest only the first 2 years. So you're going to be for 11.1 million, you're going to be about 520, 530 a year principal and interest payments for 30 years.
So we're talking, I mean, just the pure math of this, 525 plus $1.2 million, we're roughly at about $1.8 million, less the revenues that we would end up generating.
Yeah, you're about $1.5 million for the whole
Yeah.
project.
What are we spending today, Bill, for the community center? How much are we spending?
Off the top of my head, Mike, I couldn't tell you.
Maintenance and upkeep of that building?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's got between oil and repairs and stuff, it's significant. Tim may know better than I do.
Yeah.
Because he's on the ground with it, but
Yeah, break it down between each building. I'd have to get back to you on that for number wise.
Yeah.
But you're probably heat, electric, you know, basic maintenance. You gotta be, you know, I don't know, the electric, it's gotta be upwards of 6 figures by the time you put your electrical and everything else into it.
we
you-
talked about that same thing last night at our budget meeting, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
all right, so I'll go back to the other thing, like,
Is Matt still on the line?
It's here,
Because
yeah.
what was that, their building, that was ran through the town. It wasn't public-private, right?
Correct. It was run through the town.
Okay. So prevailing wage, everything went,
Correct.
okay.
Okay, yeah, if you reorient there you go. Okay, so there's a Stop and Shop to the left.
Mhm.
And then you have Haynes's property to the right.
so can you guys see my mouse moving?
Yep.
Yep.
This is probably where the building would be put.
Okay.
In that area. And I don't know if it would incorporate this structure here or not. If we went with the Haynes site.
Kurt, are they prepared to move all this stuff out of here and put it somewhere else?
My last conversation with Tom, yes. Now, where it would go, I don't know.
Did he give us a square footage or acreage, what he's gonna give up or what he would possibly give up?
I think it would be based on what we needed, what we wanted to build, and then we would work out some type of deal with him.
Okay.
You know, the initial conversations where it would be a lease purchase, for lack of a better term. And we would pay a flat amount each year for 20 or 30 years and then own the building when we were done. He would carry the debt costs.
The advantages of using him is that we wouldn't be paying prevailing wages on the project.
Correct.
And once we get a better fix on numbers, to that point, maybe it comes in less than the $1.8 million. I don't think it'd be that significantly less than $1.8 million, but depending upon, again, what he could do for us, the fact that he's got his own company.
Hey, Mike, do you have a formula for prevailing wage versus, you know?
No, I don't. I'm working on one right now that's, that they don't want to use prevailing wages, but they're going to have to because it's a historic tax credit deal.
Yeah.
But I gotta say the wage rate is probably 25% higher. And wages generally are about 40% of a project. So it could be $1.5 million, $2 million.
Yeah.
One of the things, I don't know if Matt's still on. Matt, how much of your operating budget each year is driven by the pool? Is he still here? You might not be.
I'm sorry, repeat that, Kurt.
How much of your operating budget is pool related?
In expenses,
Yes, percentage wise, 20%, 30%?
I would say, no, I would say it's over 50
50?
in regards to staffing and maintenance. Yeah, I would say it's probably between 50 and 60%.
Because one of the conversations I did have was with the folks at the Y about a potential partnership where they would actually run the aquatics program. So again, that could take some of the load off of the expense side, but at the same time, would also take away a substantial chunk of the potential revenue that would come in.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
But I don't think, and Matt, you can obviously confirm this, I don't think the revenue is gonna come anywhere near being budget neutral with the expenses.
No, having a swim team and adding swim teams bring in huge revenue. So I think that's a decision. I don't know if your town currently has a youth swim team. Do you?
Yes, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they train at the high school.
They do. That has been able to, you're able to expand so much on private lessons and stroke clinics and bring in a lot of revenue that way. But year-round swim teams bring in huge money, especially if you're a USA Swim program. And that's how the Ys make their money off their programs. In regards to, swim lessons makes up, I would say probably 20% of our revenue. We currently have 363 kids enrolled in swim classes, 27 filled classes. No, pools aren't, especially 50-meter pools. And that's what SFA had told us to steer away from, was adding to the size of the pool. And I don't know if you made a decision or looked at size of the pool you're looking at, whether it's 4-lane, 6-lane, 8-lane, or a 50-meter pool. But I would certainly steer away from an Olympic size pool. But back to your question, Kurt. No, our revenues without the other amenities wouldn't, break even.
Okay. So, Mike and Tim, maybe for you guys, if we decide on what we want to build, so there were some of the examples in I'll call it the community center field, the 70,000 square foot. That was basically putting up a new structure and using some parts of the existing building. If we design something like that, why couldn't that also just be flipped over to the Haynes space as well?
Oh, you could, yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
To move it over there, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So at this point then, since we're not sure, should we work on designing I guess what we would want for a space, knowing that it could work in either place? And then as a sidetrack, talk about where we might end up with the building?
Well, again, I wouldn't spend a lot of time trying to fit a building like that on one and then try to just move it. I mean, the sites lend themselves to be pretty similar. Because I'd have to sit down with Tom and say, okay, what are you going to do there on the site? Are you prepared to move everything off? What are you going to do? Is the whole thing open? And then we can go from there. So maybe you and I can just take meet him for lunch or something and talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, you should know what his overall plans with the whole project is. You don't want to, think one thing and then. Yeah,
we were thinking we're going to take that whole site, and he's saying, oh, no.
It's like, here's your sliver, and that's it.
Yeah. So we ought to talk about that, because it does make a great, I think, front door for him going into a new development. And his cost of money, I got to believe his cost of money is going to be higher, though, to build it. So what's that offset versus the town's bonding capacity? He's not going to get it for 2%. He's going to get it for 4 or 5%.
No, but I would think that he could build it, do some type of float, and then we pay the float off, couldn't we?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the interest rates are going to be cheaper if the town goes out in bonds than if a commercial company goes out. I mean, there's no question. Now, whatever that spread is, I mean, I would think that the business he's in, he's got to have some examples that maybe not perfect, but hey, Tom, what are you paying on average for your debt? 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever. Because the town I think is somewhere around, I don't know, 2, give or take.
Well, the deal I just showed you, the tick on that was 2.04.
Yeah, I mean, so 2% is probably a prevailing rate to seat of the pants to have a discussion with.
Yeah.
But clearly, and then it becomes a matter of, all right, you got prevailing wage versus no prevailing wage. You've got, I think to your point, Kurt, one of the things to look at, irrespective of if we put it on the community center side or we go to the Haynes property, is what do we want in this building? Because I
Right.
think obviously that's going to be the driver for square footage and all of that fun math that we've got to do. But in terms of the debt, I don't know if, there's any kind of, and this would be something to look at, would there be any kind of a public-private partnership that might reduce his debt costs, maybe throw off some tax credit to him? I don't know. I mean, that's something that, maybe Mesero can tell us about. But that
And
that
we
might
had
be a
those-
sweetener.
We had those conversations initially when we spoke, and I think Tom was very open to being creative as best he could. But one, to Mike's point, he would love it to be the statement piece of this new development he wants to put in and have it anchor it. Kind of, like he always wanted to have a quarry walk, which he wasn't able to get with the Y. So, some of the things we talked about was tying payback from the town to tax revenue that was being generated and so on and so forth. So,
Understood.
in lieu of tax deferments and things. So, I think Tom's very open and creative. I think the first thing we need to do is we need to get a determination, and maybe this kind of leads us into the next part of the meeting, but what we want to have. What do the people think is important? Obviously, Matt gave us a ton of good feedback. And then design a building, at least the kind of the rough strokes of it. Something that could potentially work at the community center, something that could potentially work on the Haynes property. And then at that point, we can kind of start having those more in-depth conversations and really get into the nitty-gritty of it. But we can certainly have some initial conversations, I think, with Tom while we're doing that. Does that sound like it makes sense?
Yeah, I think.
Agreed. Yeah.
Hey, Zach, from the perspective of the existing community center with the 2 stories in the basement, how does that work with your programming and, the room sizes and the, versus having it all on one floor like Newtown has?
Well, right now, obviously, as you know, in our community center, we don't have access to the basement or the top floor. It's just, you can't go there. So all we have is that main level. So your question is, how would I versus 2 stories versus just the one?
Yeah.
I mean, as long as we had, with the program rooms, we had dividers. As long as we had multiple rooms, I don't foresee it being a problem. But I mean, like I said, right now we are on the 1 floor and it is very tight, and it's the rooms, they're not sufficient right now.
Right. Okay.
Zach, quick question. If we use the suggestion that Mike had of, using the existing building kind of as an anchor, turning the existing gym into a fitness center / locker room, then going out into the field with a pool and basketball courts and stuff. If you had the we'll call it the main floor and the top floor, would that be enough for programming? And including in this, we redid the bottom floor for the Boys and Girls Club.
So you're saying the size of the building we're in right now, completely redone, and to add on the gym and the pool, if it'd be enough.
Yeah.
And I would have full access of the building. That's with no Boys and Girls Club or nothing, just the building. So we'd have the.
No, you leave the basement for the Boys and Girls Club.
Basement for the Boys and Girls Club.
I don't know. I don't think so. No.
It'd be bigger than what I'm proposing in 40,000 square feet of new.
The current building we're in right now, the room size, like I said, we'd have to knock. I mean, you can't knock.
You'd have to knock down walls. Yeah, absolutely. You'd have to open them up. That's the whole purpose of.
It'd be we have to open up everything up, and we would have to, like I said, we'd have to add on even that gymnasium right now. I don't know what kind of condition it's in, just even from like a structural standpoint. I mean, when you go in there, it's kind of a little iffy right now. So I don't know. I mean, adding the fitness center there would be great, and then going off to the side, but I don't think that it'd be sufficient, at least right now.
Okay. All right, so let's transition to item number 7. Because I think we need to kind of get some input from the community to see what other people think. I think, a lot of what Matt had said was while the committee thought certain things would be really good and wanted to push them, they got a lot of pushback from the community on some different things.
Correct.
So how would you like to structure these surveys? Obviously, we can go online with SurveyMonkey. The community center has access to that, so we can push that out to existing community center families, recreation, senior center. We can make paper copies to be available at the library and town hall, different places like that. Is that kind of the direction everyone wants to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense because, respective of the logistics, we've got to get a sense of the community.
Right.
Do they want it? What do they want to see? And you may also get some people to say, I'm not paying for that. So I think it's important we reach out, however we can do it through a combination. Maybe stuff by mail, paper surveys at the places, or SurveyMonkey, any and all ways to.
Yeah, I'd say
see what we
all
can
the
find out.
above.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
As much as we could get it out there, I think we need to, every possible way we can, just to get as much info from everyone that we can.
And the needs of your community change, right? So what your current goal and mission of your senior center and community center might be different than what the community is actually looking for.
Matt, do you still have the survey that you guys used in Newtown?
I do. I can send that over to you.
Okay.
If we get a copy of that sent out to everybody add their 2 cents to it, and then we could break it down from there and see what, we could come to a complete survey at that point and then shoot it out from there.
All right, so why don't we do this? So we'll get the survey from Matt. And since Zach is sitting around getting paid doing absolutely nothing most days, Zach's going to be the hub for the.
He's got in person going, baby. He's ready to go.
I know. So Zach will be the hub for stuff. So we'll all review the survey that comes in from Matt, and then everybody send their responses back to Zach. And then what we'll do is we'll use a Google Doc or something where everybody can kind of see what's going on, and we'll just be making updates. And then once we get it into a format that everyone is comfortable with, obviously we'll have a paper version, and then we'll convert it into an electronic version to use with SurveyMonkey, put out on social media and so on.
With the paper version, why paper? Why not just keep it all online?
Because you're going to have seniors that won't go online, or it's the same thing with the budget. We put a stack at the senior center, at the library, town hall.
Okay, got it.
Can we do a mass mailing to everyone?
Everyone in town?
Yeah, like those prepackaged or prepaid cards, just so we don't miss anyone. Because again, with COVID and everything being shut down, you're not going to get the foot traffic of people going everywhere. And a lot of people have left their house and don't go on the internet.
You got the voter ID list. That's public information.
So we did a
Republicans, Democrats,
postcard.
Independents.
We sent a postcard with the address and where the surveys were available to pick up. So we tried to drive people to the town website to complete the survey. And then for those who are don't have internet accessibility, we drove them to physical locations on the postcard. But we kind of we put together a mission, and I'll send over all of our documents. So a mission, what the charge of the commission is. And we put that on the postcard as well when we sent that out. Just to be full transparent, this is what we're looking to do. Complete the survey. And I'll see if I have a copy of our postcard as well.
The mailing too is probably going to be about like 55 cents per piece just to send out. So I'm not sure if we do a whole mailing where the money's going to come from or what versus online, but just kind of a heads up.
Oh yeah, we're going to be talking $5,000 to $10,000, I would bet.
Yeah.
Only money.
Can Anne Marie do a mail like she does? Not a mail, a phone call like she does for snow emergencies or any other town things, and leave messages.
There you go.
Say,
Is that legal?
Oh yeah, I would suspect we would use the code red to let people know that it's out there. We would use social media.
Yeah.
But to the point that was made earlier, we still have some people that don't use the internet.
Oh, absolutely you do.
I mean, you could attach $1 million to the internet, and my father would die a poor man. I mean, he just would never go to it.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, that comes back to, as much as I hate to say it, and the cost of it, but we've got voter ID lists. That if you want to, make sure you get everybody, I would think you got to get the majority of the town. And if the people you didn't get, you leave the hard copy someplace, and yeah, you could put it up on the screen on the
Does the
town
voter ID
website.
list have age? So if, you point at.
No, it's got name and address.
him and
Okay,
Adam.
so-
Yeah, I
It's
was
got
gonna
name and
say, Mike,
address.
yeah, Mike, I was thinking that too. You mail it to the seniors and everyone else is online if you had the ages, Mike.
Right, right.
But doesn't Mary have a list of the seniors, the members that are of seniors
We
that
do
are
have a list of the current senior members at our place. That's not all the seniors in town, but yes, we do have a current list, correct?
mailed to them? We can do a code red. We could put it on our Facebook page. We could put it on our town website. We can send it to the senior centers. Even, would it be possible, Fred, if we sent it home with children through the Board of Ed when they're in school?
Hey, we can have Kurt stand in front of Stop and Shop and hand them out.
Good.
Lunch board, baby.
To answer Anne Marie's, the first Selectwoman's question, I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem with sending something home to the students.
I think too, we have to set realistic expectations of response. Because again, a referendum vote, on the budget, we're lucky to get 1,200 people. So I don't think this is something where we're going to get 5,000 or 6,000 responses. I mean, if we get
That's the
750
budget.
to 1,000 responses, it's probably a good thing.
I think we get more than your referendum, budget referendum.
We'll get more than the referendum.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because people are going to look at it and say, that's not that $15 million thing again.
Is it?
For those that have those kinds of memories.
Yeah.
Well,
What is
they'll
that,
they'll
Facebook?
complain, but will they fill out the survey?
Of course not.
Well, maybe they will, just to get their thoughts of, yeah, I don't want it. And there, I'm sure going to be some, hopefully, that would say, yeah, that's a good idea. And here's what I think.
Right.
And fill it out. Yeah. I think you're going to get a cross section of yays and nays.
We were very close last time and that was they didn't have any information. So I think giving them some information, hopefully we'll get more yays this time. Would be great.
Can't hurt.
Yep,
There's nothing wrong with asking their opinions and their thoughts.
definitely.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
right.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm
No,
just
I know.
saying, we have to set expectations of how many these we're going to get back and what is successful.
Well, you're not going to send out, a second mailing. So it's going to go once and that's going to be it. You reply, hopefully. And if not, hey, you had your chance.
And then the deadline to reply.
Yeah, you should give them a deadline of some date, whatever it may be. The end of March, end of April, whatever.
Now,
And-
the other thing too, if we do a public-private partnership
Mhm.
that's paid for out of the general fund, and we're not taking on any debt, I don't think we have to go to referendum.
Are you sure?
If it's approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, it's a regular expense.
Yeah, if it
Like
becomes a regular,
contract.
yeah, if it becomes a regular item like garbage disposal, which we're
Right.
still working on. If it becomes a regular line item in the general fund budget, then yeah, that's part of the general fund budget vote that everybody does. But to my knowledge, you don't need a separate, hey, can we include this? Because it's all part of the general fund budget. And you end up just as a debits and credits line.
Yeah, but that's a
Whatever-
$500,000 line item or more.
No, understood. No, there's no question about that. But you'd end up with it, ends up under debt service or a new account called leasing or whatever the heck it would be called.
Right.
But it's all part of the general fund budget. And that goes through the normal process. It doesn't get the, just for that item having a special referendum.
Just as long as, as the taxpayers and residents understand it and
Well, I mean, that comes to the explanation and getting it out there and PR efforts and
Right.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, we'd have to get an opinion from Matt and Bruce.
Yeah,
Fred,
no, absolutely.
I agree with the chairman. You'd have to get an opinion from council.
Yeah.
If the purchase option at the end of the lease, we might need bonding approval early on.
Mm.
Well,
Well, but if you're not going to bond it, and it just your payments just get credited, let's say, towards this, this building that 30 years out you're going to own.
Okay, if you're going to own it at the end of 30 years, fine, but if there's some type of option that down
Oh,
after 30.
Oh, different story. If it says, okay, at the end of 30, you got to put up whatever.
Oh, yeah, balloon payment. or
Balloon
something.
payment,
Oh, great.
Yeah, balloon payment. Yeah. Clearly you'd end up having to do that.
But I would think if we did a lease purchase agreement with a non-appropriation clause,
I love
What?
non-appropriation clauses.
I know you
Yeah,
do.
me too.
I would assume we can not have to deal with the referendum step, but to the points that were made, are people going to say, oh, they're just pulling an end around, and you got 9 people making a decision for the entire community about spending $15 million over 30 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's, again, it comes to PR, and you're going to get a sense off any surveys you get back what people think. And that's probably going to drive, and obviously we're going to have to talk to Rich and all, just to get the T's crossed and the I's dotted. But
Yeah.
you're going to get a cross section of opinion and see which way the thing falls. If it ends up it's just a line item in the general fund budget, yeah, that's going to have to be explained.
Right.
Here's what we're doing, and here's why, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, don't forget too that the debt service is built to absorb this. So as the debt service falls off in the next 3 to 4 years, if the debt service payments remain level, we'll eventually get, within a year or two, we'll eventually get to 500,000. That will be built in there.
I don't think it's from the practical point of view. I don't think it's so much the debt service / annual rental cost, whatever that number is going to be and whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's that so much as really getting a warm and fuzzy feeling as to funding the ongoing operations of it.
Right.
I think that's, anybody can put a building up or, lease sale, lease purchase and all that. Anybody can do that. And it fits in our parameters of the debt schedule and how the debt's going to fall and et cetera, et cetera. The real concern from a perspective of every year, if we just go by Newtown, okay, $1.2 million, only 4 employees. Where's that offset revenue? Because $1.2 million, that's a little over $1 million.
Right.
And will the town be happy, especially in the initial years of, okay, we're gonna, worst scenario, we've got to tack another $1 million onto your taxes just because of this, not the debt, but to run it.
Right.
And so these are all kinds of things that maybe the survey would shed light on, and there's more digging to do in terms of these swim teams. Are they out there? What's the feasibility and interest for this organization, that organization? Again, back to regionalization. If it ends up at Haynes's, is Beacon Falls interested for whatever? Or if it ends up at the community center, you think Ansonia might want to go in. But, these are all the feelers that have yet to be decided. But it's not, to me, it's not the put up the building cost that's
Right.
the issue. It's the ongoing that we've got to really focus on too.
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't someone be doing or looking at what we're spending today at the community center from ongoing maintenance and
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's
and
a
what's the
spot.
what's the incremental of
Yeah.
tearing that down, putting new versus adding on? Somebody's got to do that.
No question. That's a piece of it, Mike.
Well, I think
Because
we
if
have
we-
to, once we have the programs and I guess some of the amenities, then we can budget that out.
Yeah. I mean, then
Because
you're
if the
going to
pool
have a
gets-
better
if the
idea.
pool gets scrapped, I mean, that's going to be a huge,
That's a huge cost, both
Yeah.
ways, both
Yeah.
ways, capital and maintenance.
And,
Well,
to Tim's,
I
And
mean,
less income.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and then why bother putting a new community center together if you're not gonna put a pool in?
Correct.
oh, agreed. Yeah, if we're not putting a pool in, I don't think it makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
your most your revenue.
Right, and I think the pool, there's a lot of swim teams out there and there's a lot of competitions out there in the swim meets, there's a lot of meets. So I think putting in the pool in is going to make a lot of, it's gonna raise the revenues for the
Yeah.
center.
No,
But again,
well,
you don't wanna shun people out for teams
Right.
always being there on top of it.
No, that's true, But we can
Yeah.
also do swimming lessons and get with the Y.
Yeah.
Well, I think, we still have the high school pool, which is a competitive pool.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
I mean, one of the issues we run into now is we can't have a lot of open swim and swim lessons because between the high school teams and the Wildcat Swim Club, there's not a lot of open spots. So if we just dedicated the high school pool, let's say, for the high school team and the swim and the Wildcat Swim Club, the pool in the community center is now specifically designed for open swim lessons, things like that. I
Seniors.
think we probably get a little more bang for our buck.
Do you have any open swim currently at the high school?
We used to right now. Right now, the school is not letting us in.
Right. What type of numbers do you have during your open swim at the high school?
I could definitely pull them. Honestly, our big thing was swim lessons. We would swim out swim lessons a lot. We'd sell them out. We only have a certain allotted time. We'd have between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So we'd have a certain time for swim lessons, and we'd sell them out all the time. But I could get those numbers. I could look them up.
Every 8 weeks, we average about $20,000 in revenue in swim lessons.
Yeah, I bet. Yep.
Yeah. And Kurt, Pat Loder, our former first selectman. So, and I want to know, there was a transition period through this process too. So, our old first selectman had started the project, Pat Loder, who was here through the tragedy, and then Dan Rosenthal had inherited the project, had looked at the YMCA as an option. And found some obstacles regarding overhead and will the money be going directly back into the facility? Who is in charge of the staff that's in there? So you have, so now they're bringing in exterior staff, but the staff in the building, so you have some logistics there to work out. And then there was also a religious component, so they're the Young Men's Christian Association, and does that have, what is the relationship and the significance to a town and a public building? So those were all things that were taken into account with our legislative council when they had talked to the Y.
That's a good point. But listen, Matt, that's something the Board of Selectmen has to worry about, and I'm not on that anymore, so, I'm just here to build a building. No, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So,
You want the money to go back into your facility, and what's the best way to do that?
right.
Can we add something on our survey to jockey donations like the Carl Miller swim, space?
Listen, you may see some Seymour families that I bet you if we did something, a gold, a blue, whatever, different levels, that you may get some people that may want to throw money into this to have, we can put a plaque out front. I think that's a great idea, Tim.
also, there's things like, not to be corny, but selling bricks,
Naming rights.
selling bricks, naming rights. The Matthews Foundation could they be in play, or the Community Foundation in the Valley? I mean, there are things that, may or may not help. Who knows?
And there
Wish
could be,
Catherine Matthews was around.
yeah, I mean, there could be some federal grants out there as well for different things like this.
That's
we can really
that's
keep them
exactly
pushing.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I mean, all of the, I would say that our finance department should be the ones to start just looking, just for, sake of argument, that what might be there. Not that it would be, but who knows?
You never know.
Yeah. Emery, can you ask Dee to kind of kick the tires and see what's out there?
Yep.
Please.
Please.
All right, so I guess, so where we are now is Matt is going to send over the survey. And then Zach will get that out to everybody. So let's say we get that out to everybody by Monday. I'd like everybody to have responses back to Zach by next Friday. So then we could put something together. And again, just gonna pull up my calendar. So maybe we can get something out
The next,
maybe in 2 weeks, let's say by the 17th. And keep things out until our next meeting, which is March
8th or 1st.
March 4th.
Oh,
First
we're
Um,
Thursday of the month.
gonna have April.
So how long do we think is appropriate to keep the survey out and open? Is 2 weeks enough?
I think so.
I mean, listen, we can move our March meeting too. So if we want to have it out for 30 days and move our March meeting from, let's say, Thursday the 4th to Thursday the 18th as an example.
Yeah, that, I think a 30-day window is less pressure on everybody. Now, granted, that gives them more time to just put it aside and forget about it. But I think if you give them the opportunity, it's not going to hurt to move our meeting for 2 weeks. And if you get more replies, tremendous. Zach will know, because if they're filtering in to him, he'll have a sense that, you know, maybe he doesn't get any replies in that 2 weeks, but at least it's the period of time is there. And because if you don't give them enough time, oh, you know, they may put it down, pick it up later. Oh, I'm late. They don't want it. It's past the time when they want it or
Right.
something.
Yeah, I foresee most of like the online surveys coming in within that first week. If they're gonna do it, they'll get the email and they'll probably do it right there within that first week.
All right.
I think
So
it's
if,
good.
Matt, is the survey something you can send over tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, perfect. All right,
Yeah.
so if
Yeah,
Matt
we gave 4 to 6 weeks, and then we kind of reached out to some of those groups who were, you know, a little obstinate about the project, to talk to them that we were, you know, putting out a new community survey. We want to hear from the community. We want to be transparent in some of those larger groups and kind of help, you know, filter it through them that way. So.
Okay. So if
Kurt,
we
can you just confirm the date, Kurt, you want the survey out by? Again, the
Well,
17th?
Well, if we could, if Matt can get everything to you by tomorrow,
Okay.
and then you can get everything out to everybody, you know, tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
Everybody kind of reviews it, gets questions back, let's say by Thursday. We can pile everything and get a final draft out on Friday, the 12th, for everybody to just review and tweak.
Okay.
We could plan to go live on Wednesday, the 17th.
Yep.
With the survey. And then, Mr. Stanek, what's the mechanics for getting stuff in the kids' hands in the schools to go home?
Generally, the superintendent has the discretion to decide what goes in the hands of the kids to go home. Or we could present it to the Board of Education at its regular meeting, the first Monday of March.
Okay, do you think the board would have an issue if the superintendent approved without their say to get this out maybe that third week in March or third week in February?
I don't think so, but you never know.
Yeah, I just don't want to put anybody in a bad spot.
Are we
What are they
mailing
gonna,
yours?
what are they gonna do? Fire him?
Well, that's a fair point.
Fair point.
You know what? No, what? Not Zach. We're not going to mail it. We'll actually print them out,
Okay.
surveys, and give them to the kids to take home.
No, I'm talking about the seniors. I'm asking about the seniors.
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out with COVID, how we can do that.
Matt, don't we have cookies? Oh, no, we won't have it in time. Never mind.
We do though, coming up. Yes, we do.
Kurt, could you use PowerSchool or whatever software the school district has? Do they allow crossover to send email blasts, to do it electronically from parents? I don't know how many paper, you know, results you're going to get back from people.
Yeah, no, we would definitely use the school's email system as well as our Code Red system,
Yeah.
that which has email capability, social media. Yeah, so we'll hit them in a couple different ways with that, but just trying to pick up some of the paper people as well, even if it's just a simple one-page sheet that says, hey, take our online survey, to put in some kids' hands as well. So, all right, so let's shoot for that timeline, at least to get the survey itself done. So Matt will get everything over to Zach tomorrow. Zach will get it organized, get it out over the weekend by Monday at the latest. Everybody's feedback to Zach by Thursday, the 11th. We'll spend the weekend kind of compiling it, getting everybody's thoughts in. Monday, the 15th, we'll send out the final version for everybody's last comments with the hope to go live on February 17th. I would expect we would keep the surveys open until Friday, March 12th. Monica, you're writing all this down, right? I hope. And then we would move our meeting from March 4th to March 18th, if that works for everyone. So that way we would have the opportunity to review kind of the survey results and things. Does that tentative timeline work for everybody?
To work.
You're on
Good for
vacation.
me. Good for me.
I was gonna say that.
Oh yeah, I am on vacation. I don't even know where I'm going. All right, so maybe it's going to be the 25th, but so we can obviously push the meeting out if we're not getting the response that we want, or if we want to do something different to maybe trying to generate more responses. But why don't we use that kind of?
Why not, if you get them out mid to third week in February, can't you have a brief meeting to say, what's the response coming in? What's it look like? Do we have to do anything else?
Well, I think at that point it would be just kind of a touch point. Zach will be able to track stuff on SurveyMonkey.
Correct.
Anne Marie can let us know kind of what's maybe coming into town hall, stuff that's being mailed.
All right.
And we can do an email update.
Survey up to-
If we get to that first week in March and we've gotten 400 or 500 responses, maybe we just have the meeting as scheduled on the 4th. So we'll kind of play it by ear, but I don't want us to get together looking to do some work based on the results, and we got 85 results. I mean, I don't know if that's the way to go. Anne-Marie, do we and Bill, do we have any budget for anything if we wanted to bring a consultant in or something like that to help with this process or anything along those lines?
To my knowledge, we don't have a formal consulting line item for a community center.
Mhm.
Are you talking in the new budget?
I'm talking in any budget.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things we can do is toss a line in the new budget and even put it under the selectman's office, consultant, community center, and put some kind of dollar amount in there.
How much do you think a consultant would be, Kurt?
I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not even sure what type of consultant we would
Yeah,
do.
it depends
But
what you want them to do, what you want,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think we're there yet.
yeah, we're not, but in terms of just a number, we're going to know more in March as we go along towards the end of March and April. Right now, I think as a safety valve, I can stick a line in under the selectman's office, consultant, community center, and we'll just make up a number and put it in. Because as long as the line item is in there, plus or minus can always be done from other line items. But if you don't have anything in there, then, that's a problem setting something up after the budget has been passed.
correct. So Bill, you can work through that with
Yeah,
Doug.
oh, yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah,
could
oh,
you-
yeah, we'll take care of that.
Is that something you're going to throw $1 in just to have, or are we going to actually make some type of transfer
Well, I think,
now to have some if we need it for this budget year?
well, for this budget year, we'd have to play a shell game, quite honestly, to move something in somebody's line item. If we all of a sudden went out and said, oh, we got to have somebody, we got to pay him in April or May or whatever, because there's no provision that I'm aware of in any line item that would fit this thing. That said, if we're looking at March, April, May, June, it's not a rough stretch to pay the person and tell them, we're going to pay you July 1st. We'll cut a check.
Right.
If that's the case, then certainly in the new budget, we can toss a number in, because I'm sure for now we can set it up with $1. And as we get closer through this process, if we start talking about consultants and whatever, we may get some sort of feel, we need $12,000 to bring in somebody, or 8,500 or whatever. So for now, we set up in the new budget, we'll pick a number and set it up. We can always go plus or minus to get us where we gotta go. As long as it's not an egregious number, then we shouldn't have a worry.
Yeah, well, there's, in the first selectman's budget, we budget that $6,500 a year for travel. And I know we encumbered some last year, and I don't know how much has been used this year, if any, and how much will be used. So there's some money
Yeah,
that
but-
can be shifted there.
Yeah, but be careful. You've got a travel line item, but you don't have a consultant line item.
No, I'm
Anywhere.
saying if you create the line item and then you guys make the transfer over,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
I think what I'm gonna have to do, Kurt, to be honest with you, is that's a question for Rich. Can a line item be created after the budget has already been passed? In this case, the budget we're in now.
Yeah.
Because he can't charge it to travel, obviously, because it's not. If he says, yeah, you have the discretion to create a new line item, then I don't think that's an issue. We can do that and it's all done. Because that's why in the past, for all these other line items, we've always created something, left $1 in it, just in case we had to move stuff. This is if we're in the current year now, that's a question that Rich can answer. And depending upon what he says, if we can do it now, great. If we can't, then it'll be something, a July 1st check, as it were.
Actually, line 802 and line 350, both are labeled professional services. I mean, one's
Okay.
for the old downtown attendant and the other's for school special ed. So I don't know if either of those would count.
Well, professional,
Deem this a professional service.
Consulting's professional services.
it might,
Yeah.
that might. Yeah, that's a good point. I'll take a look at it.
802 and 350 are the two.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a look at that. Thanks.
So,
Kurt, just so you know, and you have some background information, we brought in other directors from other community centers to hold the focus groups. So as an outside source, putting some of the information together and collaborating and having conversations with residents. So Dave Roach, who is the director at Ridgefield, held some of our focus groups for us. So that's something I'm sure, if Mary or Zach wanted to reach out to some others, we'd be willing to help with that as well.
oh, that'd be great.
It's not a bad idea.
Even if we did even something over Zoom.
Right.
Yeah. That's a really good idea, man.
We found imagery to be very positive. People need to envision what they're getting. So there was, we had put together an ad with the survey with all these options. I'll tell you, question 1 on the survey was prioritize your need and what you're looking for in your community center. And we gave 6 options. Do you want an ice rink? Do you want a pool? Do you want a gym? So I think that's something you guys got to put together.
Yeah, no, son.
And that's how you're going to get your hard data, and financially, that's the data you're going to have to look at.
Right. Okay. All right. So I think we have a kind of a general plan of how we're going to move forward, at least for the next month. Does anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts, anything we haven't touched on?
I think this was a good meeting.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so then I don't know if anybody knows, but Monica is our secretary. So she's been taking notes. So we'll actually have some minutes that will be sent out. So Monica, if you could send those out in rough draft form when they're done, we can obviously approve them at the next meeting. But in the meantime, it'll just give everybody something to work from. Just some reminders.
Yeah. As soon as I can, I'll get it typed up. But if Matt can send the information to me too, whatever he's going to send out to you guys, that way I'll be able to, I did make notes, but it's some of the stuff was kind of hard.
Yep,
Yeah,
no,
sure.
understood.
I
Yeah,
can
we'll-
send you my slides.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll copy on everything, Monica.
Okay. that'd be great. And then I'll work on this as quick as I can. I'll get it out to everybody.
She's great. I love her.
Okay. Yeah, she is excellent. So, all right. So if there's no other thoughts or comments, we'll move on to item number 8, public comment. Is there any public? No? Okay. So hearing none, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, chair votes aye. Motion passes. Close the meeting at 9:03 PM.